Yeah, so the red light is flashing. That means we're live. Welcome back, Rio Grande Guardian viewers, for the latest in our Community Spotlight series. So pleased today to welcome Steve Valdez, who is, hi Steve, welcome.
Thank you so much, Steve. Nice to be on your show.
Yeah, very pleased to have you. Many people will know who Steve is, but for those that don't, I'm going to tell you he's the Executive Director of the Economic Development Corporation of Weslaco. And we have a 30-minute window here to talk to him about what's happening in Weslaco and the Mid-Valley region. And it's going to be tight and difficult, I think, to cram it all into 30 minutes, because I know some of the good things that are happening in the Mid-Valley, and Steve's going to tell us about them, but there's so much. So let me kick things off, Steve, by saying I was very interested and enjoyed a very brief presentation you made just a few days ago. Rio South Texas Economic Council, they had a virtual tour of industrial sites. So they had EDC leaders from across the valley. You were one of those, and you made your pitch to potential investors for your industrial park. So how did you enjoy that?
That was the first time for ResTech, and it was really great to see this community come together in that format, both in person and virtual. And to see the development of the different industrial parks going on in the valley and in the region. It's just so exciting to see that kind of movement region-wide. I mean, we like what's happening in Weslaco, but to be able to see it and follow it across from one end to the other is just really, really exciting.
Yeah, hats off to ResTech. It's a good idea that they come across there to have these virtual tours, because we can't all get together still because of COVID. So for ResTech to put it on, and like you say, we heard great presentations. There's a lot of material there for us at the Rio Grande Guardian to dig into and do different stories on, including yourself, including Weslaco. So I'm going to give the floor over to you now, Steve, in a way, and say, what are the key points you want to get across to our viewers today about economic development in the Mid-Valley? How are things going?
Well, thank you again. It's going great. As we showed in that video that you saw in that presentation, we bought 150 acres, just under 150 acres, strategically located off of 1015 and Mile 9, which is only about 2 miles from the expressway. And so that location was selected because, not just because we're located in the Mid-Valley, but because it's easily accessible from the truck trafficking type of, that type of industry that we're trying to market as well. And so it's a really a great location. We're already in an engineering phase. Several steps have been taken. It's now within the city limits of Weslaco. It was just outside the city limits before. It's now part of Weslaco. It was zoned agricultural. It's now zoned for industrial use. And so the engineering we're now in that process where we've got some great master plan options to look at. We've named it. It's now called the Mid-Valley International Industrial Park. And so we added that one name, the word international. FM 1015 at one point was also called International Boulevard. And so and plus the tie to the bridge at Progreso, we've got that international connection as well. And then we strategically named the two streets that it has. One of them is called Economic Avenue and Development Drive. And so we got that name in there as well to be able to make reference to the fact that it was an EDC purchase. So it's already cut up into acres. We're already getting it ready so that we can start selling the acreage. And hopefully by the start of next year, start of January 2022, we're going to price them really well and to try to be competitive. And I don't have a problem even putting that price out there for well-developed property with concrete roads, 50-foot wide roads, so that the truck traffic will have a lot of space. We'll have, of course, all the infrastructure, the water, the sewer, all the electrical lines will be going underground, so you won't see a lot of posts along. We're really trying to make it a Class A industrial park like some of the others we've seen in the region. We're going to start looking at between 65 and 75,000 per acre. And depending on the type of industry, that price could fluctuate depending on the amount of jobs that they create and the amount of investment that they also bring to the city of Weslaco. And so we feel comfortable with the amount of money that we purchased the land for, the amount of money we're putting into the development cost. And so we feel like a good competitive rate is going to be about $65,000. And I think that's going to attract a lot of people. Just the developed land anywhere in the valley is getting more and more expensive, and we wanted it to be competitive.
So there's the first headline from today's
Right.
presentation. That's tremendous, Steve. Silly question, I guess, with the valley growing so fast, but you're very confident of filling that industrial park.
Yes, we are, and that's because we've already filled another industrial park that's been in Weslaco for some time. We've got the Mid-Valley Airport, and that takes up about a good 60, 70 acres. But when you include the acreage of the airport, there's close to 450 acres that's already completely full. There's two projects that are going up, actually three projects that are going up right now that were part of the press release. We've got two food processing companies that are moving in. Actually, they're expanding in the limited amount of space there as well. And then we've got the Mid-Valley Airport that's also getting some nice new hangars to be able to house some really impressive Citation jets. And so we're at this point because we've outgrown the previous location. And we have actually 4 letters of intent, and these are from companies that are strong companies that can't wait until they can put a shovel in the ground and start construction. In fact, we're going to be constructing the road and the infrastructure alongside of at least 2 other companies that are going to be constructing alongside with us. So we're pretty confident. We really are.
And as you mentioned that the industrial park, you've added the word international, so Mid-Valley International Industrial Park. And that leads me to something I definitely wanted to chat to you about, and that is the importance, the symbiotic relationship you have with the Progreso International Bridge, because the plans that the owners there have there, the management company has there for their growth, that's pretty incredible. It's a great story in itself, but you're seeing that happening. You're building, you've got those connections. Historically, you've always had those connections with the Progreso Bridge, but the fact that they are expanding their capacity for trucks, it just fits in so well with the growth pattern that you've got planned. So tell us a little bit about the importance of that bridge.
That's a very important topic again, Stephen, and the stars really did align for both of us because when we purchased this property, we knew that there was expansion plans at the Progreso Bridge, but we didn't realize that we were going to be building together at the same time. And so by the time they finish the expansion at the Progreso Bridge, they're doing 4 commercial lanes. They've got a really nice way of wrapping around the city so that all the truck traffic doesn't come right through downtown Progreso, or Nuevo Progreso in this case, but it wraps around it and then it crosses over into the United States. And so we feel like the Mid-Valley, Weslaco in particular, is going to benefit from that commercial truck traffic. There's a lot of cold storage, a lot of produce that's crossing over that requires cold storage. And so we also see that Progreso is also doing some cold storage facilities, and they have land available as well. But we're working on these projects together. And we've had a great relationship with Marga and the folks over at the Progreso Bridge. And it's just exciting to see that, because that's really going to be a key to the success that we see here at our International Industrial Park as well. Like I said, and that just kind of happened all together at the same time.
Mm-hmm. And so when you talk to prospective clients, folks, that the business leaders that want to be in your industrial park, the new one or the existing one, which I know is almost full or is full, do they mention that the international bridge in Progreso is a factor, is important to them? Do they tell you that, you know, how interrelated you are?
We do. I mean, every client, every prospect, every state lead, that's always a mention. There's 2 important factors that maybe 3. We mentioned that we're centrally located. We mentioned that we're very connected to Progreso and that commercial industry crossing over. We let people know that we have an airport that's a general aviation airport as well. And then we let people know that, again, that central location in the region is vital because they can go in any direction. But Progreso is always on the top list, a top 5 list of all the things that we promote about Weslaco.
Well, actually, the airport was going to be my next question, because I know how much you value that and the benefits it brings to the region, to the Mid-Valley. Tell us how things are going at the airport. Again, more expansion plans there.
Right.
How much of an asset is the Mid-Valley Airport to your area?
Oh, it's huge for us to be able to let these larger industries who have their own private jets. They have people traveling all over the world in many cases. It's great for us to be able to house not only our locals. A lot of our local industry owners here have their own private jets as well, and so really that's catering the local people that we have already that have had a need for a few years at least to be able to have a place where they can park their jet, leave it, and save it from all of the elements that we might have, particularly the sun in South Texas. And so, yes, we definitely are excited about the growth. It really has been a vital part. Anytime that we can have a conversation and say, hey, you can land right here in Weslaco, and we can have our meeting, and then we can have maybe a great lunch and dinner with all our great restaurants here in town, and then they can take off with decisions already made because we have that general aviation airport.
Yeah, yeah. And this next question, I mean, we talked a little bit about this before the program started, but you are a local guy. You're very proud and loyal to your area, and you are of the opinion that the importance of the Mid-Valley, the significance of the Mid-Valley, as the valley's been grown, generally both bookends, say, let's say McAllen Mission or even Rio Grande City, all the way to Brownsville. The Mid-Valley is becoming sort of an entity in its own right. It's becoming more important. We sort of listed some of the entities that have made the Mid-Valley their headquarters, or at least regional headquarters, and we could fill the entire show just naming them all, but there's so many. But tell us about that factor that you wanted to get across about Weslaco and the Mid-Valley as a region.
Well, it's almost as if I could create a slogan today on your show, but the Mid-Valley means more. It means more now than it did before. And the reason for that is what you mentioned before, is the growth. I've lived in cities where 30, 40 years ago, you were on the outskirts, and then that city grew so fast that all of a sudden you were right in the middle. And that's happening to cities all over the valley. And that's exactly what's happening here. The region is growing so fast, both industrial, residential, commercial, every facet of our economy is growing. And now it's growing, and we're becoming the center part of that region now. And so we have headquarters like the IDEA Public Schools is headquarters, the DPS is headquarters here in Weslaco, the National Guard. We've got a strong Border Patrol substation here that houses hundreds of employees of Border Patrol agents as well. We've got the COG, the LRGVDC, and so we have a lot of decision making happening here in the Mid-Valley because it's easy to get to. We're close in proximity to everywhere. I talk about our workforce as well, Steve. When you can live in Weslaco and you can work anywhere, really within a 25-mile radius, you can go to McAllen Mission and be there in 25 minutes or less. You can go to Harlingen, San Benito, and go in the same distance and achieve what you need work-wise. And so you can live in Weslaco and work anywhere. And then, of course, we also want people to work here, and that's why we're growing our industrial park and we're creating jobs. I can talk to you a little bit later about commercial developments for retail that we've got projects on the hook as well. So it's a great time to be in the Mid-Valley. I grew up in the Mid-Valley. I was a Weslaco High School graduate, and to be able to see the significance that the Mid-Valley now means where it really didn't have that value as it does now.
So what is that figure that you put in your press releases? Remind me, if you have a radius of, say, I don't know, 25 miles, it may be, or 30, how many
Right.
people are within your catchment area?
There's almost to the exact number, but I'll just generalize it. It's 1.003. So we got a million, easily a million in population that live within a 25-mile radius of Weslaco. And those are numbers those are older numbers. The new census numbers have recently come out. And so we're expecting that number to go higher. We've seen the communities that have grown successfully within the last 10 years. So we will also encompass that, the new numbers that are coming out from the census as well. So the number I gave you, the 1 million plus, is an old census estimate from back in 2019, I believe. So yeah, we're just getting bigger.
And that must be a great selling point for you when businesses call you and say, I'm interested, we want to be in the valley. We know we need to be in the valley, we need to be on the border. And then you give them that statistic of the potential,
Right.
the potential for growth in the mid-valley when you have that many people living within such a short distance. That must be a tremendous point for you.
It is a great selling point for us to have that workforce that's so close. They can live here and work in other places, or they can live in other places and come to Weslaco to work here. So we've got that great balance, that great equation that helps us quite a bit.
Great. Next question, education. When we talk about the entities, the organizations, the institutions that are in the Mid-Valley, they're in Weslaco. We've now got to say UTRGV, a very big presence, and STC, a very big employer. Tell us about those two institutions and why they're so critical for you.
Well, that also is a great piece of information that we include, probably, again, one of our top 5 as well. So you've got UTRGV, the Center for Innovation and Commercialization. We've got STC. STC is the second largest campus. The Mid-Valley campus is only second to the main campus in McAllen on Pecan. We've got Texas A&M Kingsville and Texas A&M Citrus. And so we have a Texas A&M presence here as well in their Research and Extension Center. And then, of course, we've got a few vocational schools, Valley Grande Institute. We've got South Texas VOTEC. And so those are all part of the post-secondary education that contribute to Weslaco. And so we can say that we've got that presence here as well. That's really great when kids can finish high school, graduate from high school, and have places that they can go close by, whether it's a UTRGV in Edinburgh. They can travel. As a matter of fact, the CIC Center here has a bus that picks up students every day and travels and drives them over to Edinburgh and then brings them back. So our parking lot in front of our building has a few spaces that we reserve for some of the students that travel to Edinburgh. So it's a great resource. Definitely, we even have some university housing here as well. We've got a doctoral program, the business school, the Robert C. Vackard College of Business is here in Weslaco. And so those students that are participating in the doctoral program are part of the building that we have right next to us as well. So that too is a great entity altogether. To have that many or that caliber of education in the post-secondary education is a great resource for us.
So do you happen to know how well that UTRGV Center for Innovation and Commercialization, they launched a few years ago in Weslaco? Do you know how they're doing? And is there any way you could do a deal with them whereby those entrepreneurs, when they leave with their degrees, that they have to set up shop in Weslaco? You've got a lot of great startups starting there. Yeah,
we would love that, of course, and that certainly is. We try to capture that entrepreneur that's about to explode and expand. UTRGV is a regional school, so they're going to encourage the entire that these entrepreneurs go into the entire region. But if we can grab them before they take off, we certainly would try. But they have, particularly now with COVID and the unfortunate situation that we're in with this pandemic, they've been trying to reach out to the local entrepreneurs by providing them with training, particularly in social media. And so at some point I can share with you a release of some of the classes that they're offering, both in person and online. So Lori Simmons is doing a great job. She was the brains behind putting this together, and it's amazing to see where she's gotten it from a couple of years ago to where we're at today. But I can tell you, I don't go in there every day, but I see the parking lot full just about every day too. So that's a great resource and asset for us.
Great. And then there's another group we haven't mentioned yet that's based in Weslaco, and that's the new Rio Grande Valley Metropolitan Planning Organization.
Right.
Very important entity for us. They're the conduit for a lot of the federal dollars that come down for highways, the building of highways and any modes of transportation really, but they too are based in Weslaco.
They are, and it's great to have that kind of brain trust here, to have those forward thinkers all collaborating in Weslaco, and the kind of ideas that are coming out of the MPO that are also regionally based as well. It's just great to be a part of that, those decisions, those ideas, the brain trust, all the ideas that come to Weslaco and then start in Weslaco and then move out. And that's a great resource also for us here, is to have that MPO. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, very important group. I was listening to one of their shows recently, not shows, their board meetings, monthly board meetings, and Andrew Cannon, the executive director, the subject came up of the census, the new census figures, and he was saying that he felt Weslaco was shortchanged. He was expecting a greater number. So, that speaks to the undercount. As a city, I don't know if you've spoken to the city leaders, but are you reasonably happy with where you've landed? Some cities in the valley seem to have done very well, others haven't. There's no rhyme or reason to that. And but we all know that because of the pandemic, it's generally acknowledged, at least, that we didn't get the count that we should have. So where did Weslaco end up? And do you think your population is really much greater than the Census Bureau is telling us?
Oh, 100%, Steve, 100%. I think we ended up at about 40,000. We were anticipating easily over 50,000, and that number didn't present itself, unfortunately. The pandemic really did hurt us, but it was, when I saw that number come up, I thought that couldn't have been a true count. It really couldn't, and I think the pandemic had a lot to do with where we ended up in that particular number.
So you think Weslaco is now at 50,000? It's not just your personal opinion. That's what the city was calculating and believing, based upon all those estimates that come in through the 10 years, between each census count. It could have been close to that.
Yeah. I mean, and not just because of that, but when we talk about doing these, we use these tools that determine population within radiuses. And so within a 3-mile radius, we're at 68 to 70,000 within a 3-mile radius. And so when you put a pinpoint in the city of downtown Weslaco, which is really the center, and you do that 3-mile, we get pretty close to about 70,000. And so, and these are, again, old census numbers as well. And so to have a count that comes out below 50, even at just over 40, that was a surprise.
Yeah. And this is not your responsibility, but is there anything the city can do about it? I mean, have you heard whether you can appeal that and ask them to make some adjustment?
We haven't had that conversation with the city yet. So I'm sure the city manager, Mike Valdez, is working on something there, because I do believe that they would agree that the census was lower than what they expected.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's move back to growth again and development opportunities. I know you wanted to, before we wrap up, you wanted to talk about the retail side of things. Maybe you've got some more breaking news for us here. You've got some things happening on the retail front. You probably can't mention individual names, but new retail stores come into your city.
Well, what I can talk about are developments. and a certain number of acreage that is going to be dedicated to retail. So we have 9 different properties in the city of Weslaco that are being considered for commercial development, bringing more retail to Weslaco. So that's 9. That's 6 of them are located along the expressway, and 3 of them are either north or south of the expressway within a mile or 2. And so to be able to have 9 projects, 9 different companies, 9 developers that are looking at Weslaco, they're calling the permitting offices, they're doing their due diligence at this particular point. Some of them have actually turned in master plans to the city engineering department and city planning for review. And then some of them are at that phase where they're having conversations with planning to understand what the codes might be with regards to them bringing in this type of development. But that's great. I mean, 9 going up. So give me a year from now, Steve, and you're going to see at the very least those 6 locations along the expressway that have been sitting quietly for many years. One of them is of course right next. One that I'm allowed to talk about is right next to the micro hospital, and a smaller strip center there. Domain Development has purchased all of that land. I want to say there's probably about 12 to 15 acres within that space. And so he is in the process of recruiting companies along with the other 8 different developers that are looking all for the same hopes to be able to land the same companies. So that's really exciting too. So the face of the expressway is going to continue to evolve as we've seen over the last 15, 20 years. So we're going to continue to see that. And then at some point, we're going to be like some of the other cities where there's no more land along the frontage, and we're going to have to grow north, and we're going to have to grow south. South is our downtown district, and so that's doing really well. Our downtown district is one of the excuse me, the most intact remaining downtowns that we've seen. And so we have our Downtown Street Festival 8 months out of the year. That's coming up this coming Thursday, as a matter of fact, called Al Fresco. And so we just have a lot of activity. Sorry, let me just grab some water. I get so excited, I'm choking up.
Well, let me step in there and say, yeah, please continue telling us about the downtown, because I know it, like you say, it's very, very much intact, and right. We see some downtowns that have sort of withered on the vine, unfortunately, in some other cities, but certainly not the case with Weslaco. But the fact that you have 9 developers, they don't do these things just on spec. This means they believe they can fill those slots, and that speaks to the demand. The rooftops are there. The need for more retail businesses in the Mid-Valley in Weslaco is simply there.
We went to an event this past week called Retail Live. And what happens at this event is they take a conference room and fit as many retailers as possible into that space. And we were able to make direct contact with several of companies. And the best part about it was, Weslaco is still a small to medium-sized town. Everybody knows certain other towns in our region, but when we say, hey, have you heard of Weslaco? Every single one of them said, of course we have. And the numbers, what was exciting to us is the information they would give us back. They would all tell us, your retail numbers in Weslaco are over the top. We can look at some of the same restaurant chains that we have, and we've talked to some of these developers who are saying, when you take, for example, an average of, let's say, Chick-fil-A, we have one Chick-fil-A in Weslaco, and the region looks at a regional average for that one type of store. Every single retailer that we have is well above the average for all the other stores when they when they compare retail sales to other stores. Weslaco's numbers are always going to be higher. I think you can look under whether it's the comptroller or whoever provides those numbers, and you're going to see Weslaco's numbers are really, really impressive.
Yeah. And so what that means is the demand is there. The restaurants are full. There's waiting lines, which means we need You need to build more of them. You need more opportunities, more choice for the
Right.
consumer.
And we're
Okay.
working on that. We have a department here, Maria Cisneros, who handles the recruitment for retail, and we're actually getting ready for another big conference that happens at the end of the year in December called the ICSC. It's in Vegas, and so our commission and some of our board members will be attending that. And we're setting up meetings as we speak now so that we can visit with some of these retailers to talk to them more about Weslaco.
Yeah. And we've got to wrap up soon, but you mentioned hospitals. So we've got to give you an opportunity to tell the viewers that are not aware of this and potential investors just how many of the hospital groups you've got in Weslaco, because that's a significant factor as well.
Did you say hospital groups?
Hospitals, yeah. You've got different. You've got emergency room. So you've got hospitals, health facilities. Tell us about those in Weslaco.
Of course, the larger is Nat Medical Center here in Weslaco. There's probably 6-7 stories worth of beds. A great facility. They've handled this pandemic very, very well in comparison to all the other hospitals. So they've done quite well. We've got the Valley Baptist that just has been also a good anchor for the Valley Baptist brand. And then we've got the other ER service, the health service center as well, the ER here in Weslaco that has been great. They were here before Valley Baptist, so they really did help bring that emergency care, immediate emergency care to Weslaco as well. So we feel like one of the resources that we keep talking about, Steve, is that we're not a larger city in comparison to some of the other larger cities here, but we have a lot of those resources, and healthcare is one of them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then the last question, perhaps rooftops, more rooftops coming?
Definitely more rooftops. We have a great relationship with our permitting office, and just with permits that are on files, on shelves in their office equal. The last time we checked, they had 1,900 apartment units under construction or in the plans for construction, and about 1,800 lots. And so those lots that are in subdivisions that will at some point be rooftops. And so between those apartments and those houses, there went about 1,000 acres in Weslaco that are now gone, no longer farmland, but now homes and residential spaces. So every sector, we're so excited that every sector of our economy is growing, including our residential as well.
Yeah. Well, I did tell the viewers we were going to cram a lot into this 30 minutes, and it's been very, very informative. I really appreciate it, Steve. You giving some time to us and telling us how things are going there. Anything else we've missed? Anything else you'd like to add?
You pulled it all out, Steve. You were great at great questions. Really forced me to think about where we're at. I love this community. I love the leadership. I love the cohesiveness that we have between our EDC board and our city commission. A lot of times we work on projects together. We have a collaboration between both sides. It's really nice to have a seamless relationship with us and the city of Weslaco. I'd like to think that I'm almost connected at the hip with our city manager's office as well. We just interdepend on each other quite a bit. So that's a great part of being in Weslaco, is it's just good leadership, amazing leadership.
Great. Well, we'll leave it there, but we promise we'll come back soon for the updates, and we'll try to do this on a regular basis because we're very keen to know about all the growth happening in Weslaco. So thank you again, Steve Valdez, Weslaco EDC Executive Director. I appreciate your time and just keep up the great work for on behalf of the whole Valley.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Steve, for the work you do with the Guardian. It's amazing work.
Thank you.